Good day.
Hello.
Welcome to the next episode of
Just One Thing.
Just One Thing is the podcast of Mindful Living Today. You can find us on Facebook at The Mindful Couple and at Mindful Living Today with Lisa and Brad. And we are also on Instagram at The Mindful Couple. It's been a few weeks since we have dropped a recording, done a podcast. And I think we want to talk a bit today about when to take a break, because we definitely needed to take a break. And so let's talk about that a little bit. Do you have any rules of thumb that you use when deciding how to take a break and when to take a break? I know that we all often in this podcast recommend that people do take a break.
Oh yeah.
Because we see, we have so much of a hustle culture.
Right.
I got to be productive. I can't take time off. I got to keep going. I got to make money. I got to make clients. I got to produce.
Suck it up.
I got to take the kids to this and to that and everything. And people feel guilty when they take a break. And took an extended break here, almost 5 weeks. A variety of factors went into that, which we'll talk a little bit about. But do you have a rule of thumb for when do you take a break? Because I know it's very difficult not to feel and call yourself lazy or a coward when you're taking a break sometimes. Because I think sometimes you think you need a break, you want to take a break, but you're like, oh, I can't do that. I got to suck it up and go. So, but a lot of times you really do need a break.
All right.
So what do you think?
I am historically not good at knowing when I need to take a break.
So you oftentimes drive yourself into
to the point of exhaustion.
Sickness, exhaustion,
yes,
etc.
That tends to be my habit. I think I have gotten I'm hoping I have gotten better about it in the last 5 years or so. But even saying that, it creeps up on me. You and I are both very focused, very driven, very goal-oriented. And I think when you put all that, and creative, and I think when you put all of that into one bundle, it tends to lead to that overdue mindset and activity level. I think for me, what I've tried to do more recently is I can't. Tapping into me, if I can remember to pause and ask myself, am I tired? Great. I always know I'm tired. I always know to stop. I always know to take a break. Again, I'm just so caught up in what I'm doing that even if generally it's something I love doing, I just forget to pause and check in and say, well, am I tired now? Have I done enough? Am I over? Have I been working too hard or not taking enough breaks or whatever it is? And so I think really the thing that I work on and continue to work on is pausing for that check-in.
Absolutely.
And it may need to be on a daily basis. It may need to be more than once a day.
Well, yeah, and I was going to say, if you are a person like you who tends to not take a break, you just get so focused and you just keep going beyond really what your mental capacities are. It might be a good idea to not just even check in, to just schedule a break.
Oh, yes.
And just take
like every hour. That's what I've been trying to do.
Like 3 o'clock, I'm taking a break for 15 minutes. Even if I'm into it, I need to stop and take a break. And I think that's particularly useful for people who, are driven. Because I know for me, there's a very big difference between mentally needing a break and physically needing a break.
Yeah, physical's easier.
Well, not for me.
For me.
when I'm doing something physical, like I'm just like working out day after day after day, and I can feel myself, not really into it today. It's really hard to get going. I'm just not as strong, or I'm not as fast, or whatever. But I just want to keep pushing through
yourself,
it. I can't very well tune into those signals very well because there is a lot of ebb and flow, up and down, depending on how hard you're working. And you do tend to cycle workouts. So sometimes you're just scheduled and you're programmed to actually be tireder at this point in time. So what I do is I take a day. I have scheduled days off. Like even if I feel like going, I'm taking Tuesday off or Saturday off or whatever, and it's just worked in there. Because if I'm trying to figure out what those cues are, even after decades of doing this, I'm just not very tuned into those.
Well, and I think
I definitely need the breaks.
Yes, and I think you have a history of telling yourself that you don't need the break.
Right, absolutely.
And so I think that's even harder to overcome when you have trained yourself to think, well, I don't need a break. If I just push through this, it'll be fine.
And when you're working hard, most days you do feel a little tired to get going. And so it's hard to differentiate that. I think, over the past couple of years, I think I've been much, much better.
Yes.
It just, I'll put my clothes on, I'll start out the door, I'll get halfway to the industry, I'm like,
I'm just tired,
I could push through and run today, but I think it's better for my body to just, I'll walk home and I'll just sit and read or something.
Right.
And, it's just like paying attention and knowing how my body's going to react. That's, there's no substitute for a little bit of trial and error there.
Yeah.
And taking some time and figuring it out.
I think the first thing is really recognizing that I would say most of us have a tendency to overdo.
I agree.
And so recognizing that you do have a tendency to overdo, you do have a tendency to expect too much from yourself, I think is the first step to, okay, then what next?
Sure.
What do you think?
Say that again. I was going to say something else.
I said, I think recognizing that, I would say most of us, I would say 85% of the people that I know that I have met do too much.
Well, and I was going to say, before you asked me the question, is that I think, because I pondered this a little bit before we started this particular topic, and I was just, some people just might be, very, very sedentary, lethargic, they don't want to work hard, and I'll even use the term, although I don't like to, they're lazy.
Okay.
And so, like, do they really need a break? Probably not.
No,
but most people who are living a normal life in American society, they're probably doing too much. We have this unrealistic expectation about what success looks like, what a career trajectory looks like, what a family activity should look like. And I would, as you said, I bet 85–90% of people are doing too much already, and they need to have more breaks. Not only because it's going to make you happier, have more joy in the long run, but it's also going to make you more productive. Because if you build those breaks in, when you come back, you're going to be more fresh. If it's a physical thing, you're going to be stronger, faster. If it's a mental thing, you're going to be more creative, more focused, etc.
Right. Well, and I know, and you can attest to this, my drive to constantly do more has put me in a really crappy place physically and health-wise.
Well, I know, and you over the years, you often get to a point where you have to take weeks or months off to recover because you just pushed yourself to the edge so much.
Yeah, and that's from a whole life of doing that. So that's what happens if you live a life overdoing.
well, and you have to be very, I'm talking for you, attuned to the nuances of what that buildup of fatigue feels like, and when to take a break. Because if I were to ask you, do you need a break? You would be like, no, I'm really loving this. I'm enjoying it. It's not a drudgery at all. And I'm really, I'm like producing so much and I feel so good. It's almost like, the manic behavior that you sometimes see, artists, painters, that they'll paint for like, 6 days straight, and then they collapse, in some kind of a exhausted stupor. And that's, that's the kind of creative energy that I've seen you bring to bear. And, you really do need to schedule a time to tune in or a time to actually take a break, even if you might not feel like it.
Yeah, it might be like, I try to get up from my desk every hour. Just every hour, walk down the stairs, go up and down the stairs a couple times, get a cup of tea, maybe walk up to this, corner and back, just so that and that ties into the article that you read, and I've noticed this particularly with the projects that I'm working on now, and we've talked about this, is focused work, that close range work does something different to the chemistry in your head versus distance looking. And so that's
your eyes have an impact on your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system in terms of focus, close focus, far. And you do excite that fight-flight response when you're looking at something very focused because your brain interprets that, ooh, I have an enemy or a threat right next to me, and I'm really focused on it. My eyes are not moving.
And so that's another area where if you are doing a lot of close-up work, you need to schedule that, you might feel fine. Like all I'm doing is sitting here doing something that I really enjoy, but the reality is the message that your body is receiving is something that's stressful.
And, for me, one of my, I'll just call it my superpowers, is I can, when I'm doing I'll call it hard work, focused work. I can focus.
Oh my gosh, yeah, me
so
too.
hard that like literally the house could burn down around me and I wouldn't notice. And we've had anecdotes that sort of describe exactly that.
Yes.
And so, I kind of stumbled upon, for me in graduate school when I had to write really, really long papers and do a lot of research, and I really had to focus. And, I would work 14-hour days, probably the hardest I've ever worked in my life from a mental aspect. When I was working on a long paper, and again, there was no rhyme or reason to this. I just found it worked for me. After, every hour I would schedule a 15-minute break.
Right.
So I'd work hard as I could for 45 minutes, and then wherever I was, I would break.
Just walk away.
And I would get up, I would walk around the block, I would relax.
Right.
When I came back, I was ready to go again. You lose your train of thought a little bit, but it doesn't take you long to get that focus back, and you're refreshed, and that next 45 minutes, you're at full bore again, and actually much more productive than if you try to just keep going and going and going and going and make it more of a marathon approach. So, that scheduled break really has worked for me when it comes to mental work.
And I think in talking about this, because that's what prompted this episode, is us taking a break from the podcast, where to me this does not seem
it's not hard work.
It's not draining. We love doing it.
We basically come up with a topic and it's one take. There's not a lot of editing. So if you hear a funny noise or we don't make a funny face, there's no script. We don't really even write down topics or subtopics we're going to cover. Say, what do you want to talk about this? And off we go. So again, it doesn't seem like it would be hard.
Right, or something that you need to take a break from.
It does have a little bit of a drain on our creative and mental energies.
Right, and I think when we went away, I think again when you disrupt a schedule, a routine, all of a sudden you can recognize something that is tiring that you didn't think was tiring before.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what happened with us and the podcast was, okay, we do this every Sunday, we record this. But when we took a break from it, then all of a sudden it's like, what, we kind of need a break.
Right before we took our little break, we took a little vacation up to the Finger Lakes. The day before, I ran in the Maryland Masters track meet, suffered an injury, which was neither here nor there, but it sort of forced me to not train anymore.
Right.
So that corresponded with going away from all of my physical activities. I couldn't train, couldn't work out, couldn't run. We were away from all of our mental and work, business related activities. And by the time we got back, I'm like, I don't want to do anything because I've been training hard physically, we've been working hard mentally, and then we took that vacation, which was a very nice break. We had a good time, although I think we were probably pretty physically active, just running around doing sightseeing. So when I got back, I'm like,
I'm done.
I can't do anything. Just that forced break made me realize I was more tired than I thought. And I just needed a longer break, and here it's been 5 weeks, and now we'll sort of ease back into it. I think we need to sort of be very careful of how quickly and how extensively, we put the throttle on or step on the accelerator before as we go here.
Yeah, I agree. So what's your one thing? To me, this is such a broad topic. It's really hard, I think, to come up for me to think of one specific thing that I might say.
One specific thing is, and it's two things.
Okay, just two things.
One, recognize that I don't care what you're doing,
you need a break.
You need a break from time to time. And two, that doesn't make you lazy. You deserve that break. You need that break. And even if you're focused on productivity and not just mindfulness and joy, you still need that break, even if it's giving you more productivity.
Yeah, and I guess I'm gonna take a kind of add on to that because I can't think of anything different. But I think that also sit with how you feel about taking a break and listen.
Do you feel guilty? Are you is the voice yammering and saying you're so lazy?
You're so lazy. Why aren't you getting up doing something? You don't need a break. Get out there and get something done. I think just pausing, even in hearing this podcast.
Sure.
Well, what do I think about taking a break? What do I think about stopping doing what I think I'm supposed to do?
Do you have attitudes towards other people taking breaks?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's a really good one. How do I feel when I see somebody sitting down doing nothing? Am I thinking, well, they're lazy clods? And a lot of that stuff, to me, comes from childhood and
sure.
Your upbringing,
school, coaches,
right,
yeah,
right,
absolutely.
where they're trying to motivate you, but unfortunately it becomes this script of gotta do, gotta do, gotta go, gotta
right,
go.
Right.
So it's once again, I think it's a really interesting topic to explore and feel what you are feeling and hear what you are hearing in your head.
Absolutely.
To understand what's driving you to keep going to the point that you're tired.
So take a break. Pay attention.
Yes.
And until next time, this has been
Just One
Thing.